Hi, I'm Hilary Thurston. I'm the new office manager, office and operations manager here at Mutley Baptist Church, and I've only just started, and this has largely been because of COVID. I was originally in a previous job, and my start date has been delayed because of COVID. So first of all, I was starting in May, then July, and now eventually I've started in September. So COVID has had quite an effect on my transition from one working role to another working role. But I mean, to me personally, it's affected me. I mean, I've been working from home, so I was treated as vulnerable. So I've been sort of locked up, for about 3 months, with everybody else doing everything around me. But it's two different ways, isn't it? It's been lovely having my adult children back home again for a period of time and all together, and that's probably something I wouldn't have got except for COVID, because they were all sort of starting to depart and leave home. But it's also been quite restrictive, and I think can have quite a blow on your mental health in a way. It's been we're so isolated, and a lot of the things that I used to do or volunteer with had all stopped. I wasn't meeting people at church, so I've had to sort of get used to that. Coming out of COVID has been quite a scary thing, really. I think I've had to I'm in my first trip to the shop, and I was terrified about what was going to happen. I've been quite reluctant really to meet up with people, but slowly as I've gone through, everybody has been very generous and very gentle and very kind, and slowly we get back to whatever our new sense of normal is. But I do thank God in all of this. I mean, He's brought me to Mutley Baptist Church. He's obviously got a purpose there, and it was delayed, but it has now happened. And I'm now getting to know the members of the church and the work team and what my new role will be.
Hi Karen, how would you like to tell us what it was like for you during lockdown?
Well, to start with, we were off school, because I was still working at school then. We were off school for a while, and then we were rotated in once every 3 weeks. And then when the government said we could do bubbles, I was then working my usual hours, but I was working with a small bubble of 6 children who were year 6 children and a teacher. And it was kind of fun, but also surreal, because although we tried to do, there was some learning being done as well. It was mainly to try and keep the children occupied and positive, and sort of like made lots of jokes about separating the children off in the playground, and there were shark-infested waters in the middle, and they all thought that was quite fun. Because initially children were very nervous about it, and I think also the staff were as well, including myself. But it sort of worked out well. We were just observing what we should have done. I was also doing soup run as well. It was sort of a bit of a big learning curve, that, because of course people were having to shield and things like that. So it was a bit of a struggle trying to get people who would be able to do it who weren't shielding or feeling vulnerable. But we got there in the end, which was fantastic, and we've got some really great teams coming out with us as well. Yeah. And our service users have been really, really grateful that we've been going out. I think some people have more or less have said, we were godsends, because otherwise they would have been able to feed themselves and things. In terms of me personally, I'm going to be going back to work next week, and I'm feeling a little bit nervous because my bubble has now got much bigger, 28 children, but by God's grace I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I know He's looking after me.
Yeah, and you sort of touched on what it's like coming out. How does it feel coming out of it? How do you think we're going to?
I think we're not. It's different. It's different. It's not like it was before. It's not normal in inverted commas. It is a new normal. That was a bit of a cliche, but it is. We just have to think about things differently. And I think what it's taught a lot of us, and what I've seen as well, is people have been really, really generous of themselves, and also wanting to help others, and that's been really heartening and wonderful to see and hear about. And God's hand is in all this. definitely.
Thank you, that's really brilliant. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. We've been asked to share what's been difficult and what we have gained and how we feel now about the past 6 months in particular. This has made us stop and really think about this time.
We were asked what was difficult about lockdown. Not being able to see family and friends at the beginning, having to stay indoors, wondering when it would get back to normal or if it ever will. What will the future look like, especially for those of us in our 70s? This caused some frustration and fear. What have we gained by lockdown? An appreciation of the value of meeting with family and friends and the joy that gives. Having time to discover new places in the area we live in. Appreciating in a new and different way the beauty of God's creation. Realising how fortunate we are to live in a beautiful area. Being reminded that others in the UK aren't as fortunate as us. It has been having time to think about God has always been there, but has never left us and never will.
So how do we feel now? We are positive that it will end, a bit apprehensive about the coming winter, and we're just wondering how and when, and thinking about how things will change and the challenges that may bring. And learning more about God's timing, appreciating having had time to listen to what God is saying, and remembering that God is still in control, especially in the times when it doesn't feel like it. Learning to trust God in all things, especially when we have no control of the circumstances. Being grateful that verses in the Bible are encouragement and give us peace, even if we don't feel very peaceful at times. But just remembering verses from the Bible can give us reassurance, hope and security, and the promise that He is in control. Verses like becoming like the deer, the thirsty deer in Psalm 42 who came to drink. Remembering that we need to hunger and thirst for Jesus. And God says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. And the Message puts those verses like this. You who sit down in the high God's presence, spend the night in His shadow, say this, God, you're my refuge. I trust in you and I'm safe.
Yeti, what has lockdown been like for you?
Hello, Fiona.
Hello.
Right, I feel like I've just been, it's been mixed feelings. One minute I feel like it's been great, the next minute I feel like it's very isolating. To be honest, I've been able to save a lot, not commuting into work, that's one thing. Yeah, I've just been keeping it positive, to be fair, but yeah, just trying to cope with what life have brought, really. But yeah, that's it.
And just one last bit, and how do you feel now we're starting to come out of lockdown?
How do you think we're going to come out from it? To be honest, one, God's grace. Two, prayers for the people above trying to get a vaccine. Three, prayer again for everyone to kind of stick to protecting themselves so that everything dies down. But I'm not sure really. I think it's just prayer and God's grace. I don't know. I have no clue.
Brilliant.
But
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you very much. Thank you.